Welcome to the Well Podcast, where the goal is to motivate, inspire, and share success principles. I'm your host, George Masri. I interviewed, again, Sandy Mackay. Sandy is the owner of the brokerage, or one of the owners of the brokerage here that I work for. If you guys have heard him on other podcast episodes, on my other episodes, you know that he is a multiple business owner, and I just wanted to catch up with him because he owns a lot of businesses, so I wanted to see how he manages them. We talked about how he picks out his partners and whether he seeks them out or if they find him, if he attracts them to himself. We also talked about going into larger projects. So they started buying apartment buildings, whereas when they started out, it was just like 3-4 unit buildings, triplexes, fourplexes, and now they're getting into much larger projects. And then we also talked about limited partnerships and general partnerships. He said they started exploring these opportunities. So if you guys are interested in this kind of stuff, I think you're going to enjoy the episode. At the end of it, we touched on running marathons and staying in shape with all the gym closures and all that. So hope you will enjoy the content. And if you do, make sure to leave us a 5-star review on the Apple Podcast platform and share this with a friend. And finally, if you want to connect with me, Instagram is a good place. WellOffX, I'm there. Send me a message. I love to connect with you guys and hear your thoughts on it. Thank you so much for supporting the show. Enjoy the episode. We're at the office. Things have changed. Haven't seen you in a while. I know you've been keeping busy. Welcome back to the show, and thanks for doing this again.
Yeah, thanks, George. Pumped to be here, and looking forward to creating some great content and spreading some knowledge, and hopefully creating some good stuff for our listeners here.
Yeah, so I know we just had a team meeting, so you're probably all fired up and everything. You've got a lot going on. I know you've got multiple businesses. I think I kind of wanted to touch on that a little bit because you've been doing so much. Like maybe you can touch on what you've got going on, but tell us a little bit about what you've been up to lately.
Yeah, we had a lot going on business-wise. I think, we don't have kids yet, so maybe that's partially why. I know you've had some fun around that in the last couple of year or so at least. So, we do intend on doing that one day, but I think having a bit more free time, let's just say, at home and all that, we tend to spend our time building businesses and having fun that way. And by we, I mean my wife, Kate, and I. And we've been growing some cool things. I think real estate's been a great industry to be a part of ever since I've been a part of it. And if COVID, pandemic or not, it seems to be relentless and thriving. So the last couple of years, we built out a brokerage, Keller Williams Legacies, which we're in the office here now. And that's grown from 0 agents to 100 in the last year, which has been cool. We've built out, kind of expanded our investment portfolio, and ups and downs with that in terms of growth and going into bigger buildings and things like that. We've learned a lot, and we're really kind of going for some bigger things in that case. We kind of transitioning a little bit away from, we used to do a whole bunch of small multifamily investments, and we're really looking to go into some bigger areas with that, and bigger multifamily and that sort of thing. So we've transitioned and done a bunch of those projects over the last couple of years. And that's gone really well. We've learned a lot through that as well. Different financing, different structures, corporate structures, all that sort of stuff comes into play. A lot more legal and accounting conversations, which isn't exactly my most favorite, but comes with the territory. And business growth all around. I mean, we've grown our team to a realtor team into some new markets, and that's helped kind of all go hand in hand because we're kind of growing our investment opportunities through that, and brokerage opportunities and that sort of thing. So all real estate related, and all just kind of, I think about if anyone, probably some of your listeners watch like real Millionaire Listing Los Angeles or New York. Yeah. And I always think of when I talk about this stuff, for some reason, and I don't even watch it that much, I think about Ryan Serhant. He always says expansion always and in all ways. That's kind of a good motto, I think, for myself in the last few years at least, is we've just been growing and expanding as much as we can and creating opportunities for ourselves and everyone around us.
I know when I spoke to Adrian Pinoza, who's your partner on some of your investments, or I don't know, all of them maybe, but we had talked in the past, and he would say, I don't want to get into apartment buildings. I just don't get it. I like these, 3 to 4 unit buildings because they're easy. You can turn them over quickly and whatever else. What made you guys switch into larger acquisitions?
I know. And you know what? At the time, and I would have said the same thing too in the past, that they're easy, and they're easy because we know what we're doing, and we've done them before. And anytime you go into something new or a little bit different, it's a little bit uncomfortable. There's a few changes, things you're not totally familiar with that you have to navigate. So that would be him and myself too in the past, just being in our comfort zone, saying that, which is as you know, like not a whole bunch of greatness comes from being in your comfort zone. You often need to expand beyond that to grow and achieve more exciting things. So partially it's that, just getting comfortable with it. But we really got into it more because it's a little simpler, actually. In hindsight, thinking back, it's a little bit more simple because you can make a bigger acquisition, and instead of trying to buy 50 units and doing that in 20 or 15, 20 properties, you can do that in one property. And that means one mechanical system, one roof, one there's one of each things versus 20 of each of those items. So the management costs are a lot less, and it's a lot simpler too from that standpoint. Even if you were bringing in money partners for a project, for example, and you have one person or one group of people to kind of manage, versus if you were doing a joint venture model or some version of that over 20 properties, maybe you might have 20 different investors in line there. So it's a lot of client care, kind of management there in that sense. And by going after one big building or big acquisition instead of multiples, it's a little bit simpler. I also think it's easier to scale. You can just go faster. You need to find the inventory, which is a problem regardless of what type of a property you're looking for. But you can scale it faster, and there's the financing's a bit better, actually. It's a bit easier. A lot of people, and myself too now, a lot of us have the challenge of not qualifying very well on a residential financing platform versus commercial lending. There's so many different creative options. It's a little bit daunting at the beginning because it's a new space, and it's a little bit confusing, some of the terms, but they look at everything a lot more like a business. So versus just what the comparable sold for down the street. Now you're just looking at this business asset, and what's the business worth? What's the net income, net operating income, and how does that work to make the evaluation? And that's what the bank and lenders are looking at. And you can put all that into a corporation versus having to qualify personally. Yeah. The rates and everything are actually amazing. Their rates are amazing in any lending space right now. But the rates and the opportunities and options there have kind of got a little better over the years too. There's some incredible CMHC options coming up this year that are really interesting if you can find the right opportunities for them. So. Yeah, I think all those things made it really attractive, and we've just had to do the kind of behind-the-scenes research and knowledge gathering to make sure we're comfortable enough to move forward, and then we've been dabbling there and intend on growing that even further in this year and beyond.
Yeah. I know your team does a lot of cold calling, and you guys were able to find a lot of deals that way in the past. I know you also shop those deals around to your investors, and if they don't want them, then sometimes you guys will scoop them or whatever. Yeah. It's a little bit different with apartment buildings because usually you're not going to contact the owner by cold calling a building, so you have to jump through some hoops. So how have you guys been able to find some of these opportunities on these larger scale buildings?
I think this is one of the best. We actually figured this out. Should have just asked people because I think others were doing this too. But we figured this out not too long ago of a really great resource for not just bigger buildings, but every type of investment. It was just property management companies, and you could group other companies in that too, construction or other companies that deal with bigger buildings, and just going to talk with them. A lot of property management companies in different areas, they know their clients. They talk with them regularly enough to understand when someone might be thinking about selling something, or when they're intending on retiring or getting out of the space, or they're frustrated with different elements there. So that's been an interesting avenue to explore, just contacting them. And you could think of that as a cold call too. It's just you could cold call every property management company in Canada, and you would find some opportunities guaranteed. Yeah. And you have to be a little careful. They don't want to give away their clients and talk about their clients' information that they can't talk about, but just building rapport and relationships there can really help present some opportunities. And if they get comfortable with you and they understand what you're looking for, you're not trying to out there to screw anyone or anything. You're just out there to find opportunities with those types of investors. And a lot of those people that own those buildings are a little more savvy anyways. They're usually they're a lot more business people versus the smaller landlords that maybe aren't quite as savvy. So you really have to look at the deals, and often it's not necessarily the deal, like the numbers that make it a great deal, but it's the term or it's numbers or term. Term is often where you can get creative and find a win-win. There is, there's a lot of vendor takebacks that come into play on these types of buildings. So things like that where you can, maybe on the surface, it looks like, you're not getting a great deal, but talking with that person, building rapport, creating a win-win that works for everyone.
Yeah.
That's where you really create a deal out of nothing. And that's what, I think that's what is a real good skill to grow as an investor, is to find out how to do that. And that's a lot of times through the term of the deal, not just the numbers.
100%, especially with the way things are when it's like super tight. Sometimes if you're just focused on getting the best price or whatever, you're not going to find that many deals. But if you can figure out other ways to get your hands on something, making it sweeter for the owner, then you can find creative ways and get into a deal when others aren't able to do so.
It's hard to do that on a single family investment. Like, often someone's bought that with a mortgage, and they usually don't own them free and clear. If they do, there's a little more creativity perhaps, but often they just want to sell and get out and make it easy and be done. Whereas, a bigger building, someone who owns that, or a corporation maybe owns multiple buildings, there's a little more, they understand that it's not like they're going to sell it tomorrow and be done with it. They know it's going to take a little while. They know there's in order to make it, there's tax implications that come into, like if it's a corporation owning multiple properties, just selling that off in a one-off might have some implications for them that aren't great. So they often want to kind of drag it out a little bit and get a little more creative. So it's a great way to build win-wins.
You guys have done a lot of joint ventures. Are you still doing that on these bigger buildings, or have you guys looked into general partnerships? General limited partnerships.
We don't have currently general limited partnerships, any of them technically. We have properties where we have multiple investors involved in a different way, but we are definitely looking into that. Actually, we're creating that in a couple different areas right now, early phases of it. But we intend on having some version of that built out by in 2022. And yeah, we're still doing joint ventures. You know what? I mean, I love certain aspects of JVs, and I kind of parts of them are they become a little bit annoying or cumbersome to deal with. There's a lot of relationships there when you start to go over time, and managing all those can be a challenge. But you're also giving up a lot of the deal, and I think it's kind of part of an investor's journey. I think back, and we've loved helping our investors make money, grow their wealth. Often the deal is on those JVs is a 50-50 split, which is great, and we've created a lot of wealth for others and ourselves through that process. And so I'm happy that we've done that and gone that way. And at the same time, there's other ways to do it too, and especially when you get into bigger buildings where you can actually retain a little more of that equity perhaps, and maybe just instead of taking on equity partners, more take on debt partners and do that a little differently. So the long-term life of that investment, you can actually keep a little more of it. And there's some options like that are pretty appealing too in the bigger multi-family investment space. And so we're doing both. We're still open to both. We really just are really pretty specific on our JV partners, on who that person looks like and what that avatar of that person is. And we're a little more specific on what that person looks like. Whereas when we start out, right or wrong, we would not take on everyone, but if someone had $500,000 and they wanted to invest in real estate, we're pretty open to seeing what that looked like. Whereas now, we're not going to get into relationships with people that we don't want to be in a relationship with, and not just for like short term, but for like 5-10 year terms. So
yeah. Now, with regards to like a limited or a general partnership, where do you start? What are some of the things that you do when you're just getting started with that?
I mean, coming up with a structure for it, because there's some variations of that. That's a big place to start and get clarity on that, so that you know who you're wanting to target to bring on those opportunities. That's a big part of it for sure. Is just fine tuning what that structure is going to look like. That's researching, talking to other investors, understanding what they're doing, so you can either like replicate what they're doing or maybe come up with something that's a little bit more unique. That would be step one, is understanding what that model is going to look like, and talking to other people. People can talk to us if they want to about what that looks like and what we're doing. And and getting the financing side of it really down is important, especially, and rules and regulations around all that too is huge. Like understanding what those are, so you don't get in hot water. I've recently even I've heard of some people getting into some struggle around that space with the way that they're handling the investors, because there's some people out there, like governments, that'll just bankrupt you pretty easily if you screw that up. So nobody wants that to happen. So understanding what the rules and regulations are, you have to talk with lawyers, you have to talk with accountants, you have to talk with the professionals in your world to get a great team together, so that you know that you're doing things right, and if you ever have challenges, that you can have people to go to. So not too much different than starting out in like a single family investment portfolio. You want to build the power team up, get some great people in your corner, and it's okay to screw up, but you got to know where you can get the answers quick if you do. And there's a lot more legalities around that. So really going through in detail on that, which personally I don't love, because I'm not super detail oriented. Some people might love diving deep on that. It's not necessarily me. So it's a bit painful, to be honest, for me. But I know it's just super important. I don't want to risk my entire portfolio or life around just doing that. So, yeah, it's an interesting way to go, though. I think it's a great option for a lot of people as they're building past like the traditional JV model that a lot of people start out with.
I've had somebody come on before, one or two people, and they were talking about like limited because they were doing that. They were raising funds and whatever else, and they had to be very, very careful about what they said on here. And sometimes you could see them like just thinking for a few minutes or for a few seconds, like, can I say that? How should I say this? So I get that. You got to be very careful. I know that in all of your businesses, because, I haven't really touched on this, but you have, from my understanding, obviously you own a brokerage, Keller Williams Legacies. You have a real estate team, Mackay Realty Network. You have a property management company, which mostly services like Hamilton and I guess that area. We
were primarily Hamilton. We're Hamilton based. That's what Kate, my wife, runs day to day. We actually last year took on some clients in London and Kitchener and Niagara. So we're growing kind of Golden Horseshoe and then down towards London, maybe beyond. We are looking to grow that actually across Ontario this year. Actually, we're looking at some new markets as we build out our portfolio. We're kind of piggybacking one another with that. So we're getting the size of portfolio where, in a lot of cases, it makes sense for us to have our own team manage them. Kind of depends on the location exactly and what that looks like. But we're kind of marrying those up as we grow. We're kind of looking to expand it all as a group together.
Yeah. You also have EPC. So that's with the investment. I don't know if you have anything else going on. I think you had a construction company.
We've had a few other things here and there that have come and gone, or not, or in flux sort of right now. I mean we've maybe gone too fast in some cases in some parts of our business and learned through that. But yeah, we're primarily focused on investments, and that's been kind of the fuel for all this. But then we're building our realtor team across into different markets now, brokerages, property management, construction. Those are the main kind of pillars. And there's a few other little other pieces that come along with that are starting to look like opportunities for maybe other businesses. In the past, I would have just started a business and tried to figure it out, and I've kind of learned that you kind of need to go a little slower at times with those things. To make sure it's set up properly to grow and not to just start and then be a waste of everyone's time. So we're going a little bit slower to go fast, I guess, in the last year or so, and a lot of great things coming that we're excited about, though.
Yeah. So what I guess part of what I was trying to get at was that every single company you have a partner, like at least one person that even your podcast, same thing, right? Like you have a successful podcast, you're doing that with Rob Brake. So how do you find your partners? Like, I know sometimes you just stumble upon the people and you end up working, but how do you like see someone and say, okay, I think you'd be a good partner for this business for me?
Great question. And I think that everyone's personality is a little different. So some people maybe will find a lot of value in partnerships, and some people might need to be on their own for a little bit in different ways before that. But one thing I think about when you ask that is, and something that I've learned and just I guess had some mentors comment on this, is that you could look over the Fortune 500 list of all the top companies in there, and you're not going to find one that is owned by one person. A lot of them are public. If they're not public, they're going to have multiple owners to it, and very, very few really high profile companies or very successful companies are owned by one person. And so, when you think about that, you go, well, I should probably be open to partnerships at least. And a lot of people, especially realtors and real estate world, get really stuck in on owning their own thing, which is not wrong necessarily, but you can go a lot faster when you collaborate and grow together with others. And I think I'm kind of good at that. I think that's part of my natural skill is pretty good to work with people. I'm not a very overly demanding person. I'm pretty calm and open to ideas and sharing and stuff. So I think that's a little bit me naturally, but I've also probably grown even more in that case, being in all these partnerships, because you can't always get your way necessarily when you're in a partnership. You have to be open and be willing to collaborate and give and take a little bit at times. And we look for people that can complement. If I'm looking for a partner personally, I'll look for someone that can complement me. And that means that they're probably, and that's where I think I work well, is a lot of my partners are actually pretty fast moving, pretty demanding, a little more of that side of personality than I am. And because we complement each other. So it works well in that case. And I think others should think of that similarly. If you're going to build a business, it's not all that much different than building a marriage or a relationship in the personal world. It's tough if you're overly similar. You need to be complementary, and that's going to go a long ways in building something together versus, always wanting to do it your way or wanting the same things out of it. It's a lot better when you can do your own thing, stay in your own lane, and collectively provide value to one another through that. And so that's what we look for, is people that are not going to be the exact same as me and not necessarily even excited about the same things as me. They're going to be excited about maybe a different part of the business. And one other thing that comes to mind on that is there's a great book, Rocket Fuel, talks about every great business has a visionary and an implementer. And so and a lot of times companies, that might be the CEO might be the visionary and the COO might be the implementer. Those are two titles that usually go in hand in hand with those roles. And a visionary type is going to be really good at big picture, coming up with the vision and the plan and getting people excited about it. And then the implementer is going to go make it all happen. Mm-hmm. Often those are two different people. And so for me, I'm definitely more a visionary type, not as great at implementing things. I'll just screw things up often. Actually, I think I like screwing things up because it makes me think more strategically and want to grow and think about it again. So if it's growing too well, it's almost not good for me because I'm bored with it. So someone else might love just implementing and making it work. So that's where I see partnerships are pretty inevitable. And that's why those top companies have partnerships, because you'll find probably if you look at them is you're going to have an implementer and visionary. So yeah, I didn't know all this at the start when we started forming these partnerships, and we've had some ones that haven't worked out based on not being in alignment with that. But those are some of the things I look for nowadays, for sure, when we're exploring these things. I
was just going to ask you, are you the one who's usually looking for partners, or in your experience or in your past experiences, have they normally been attracted to you? Like, have they come and seeked you out?
Yeah, both, I would say. I kind of look at that sometimes in my day-to-day business. We're talking about recruiting people versus attracting people. Mm-hmm. Certainly attracting them is a little easier, and often when you attract someone like that, in my experience, it's a little better likelihood that it's the right fit or that they're going to be bought into it versus trying to recruit them and having to really sell them, let's say, on an opportunity. Often those don't last as long, or they're a little bit harder to kind of put together at least. So I would say it's a bit of both. And certainly it's changed. As you grow, you naturally start to attract more people versus just having to look for people all the time. But I would also say that I'm always looking for people. I think that's something that probably I've gotten to the point now. I'm pretty much doing that all day long. Is any interaction that I'm involved in, I think about how could this person potentially fit into my world. I learned that from Gary Keller. He says that all the time, and as much as like a good example of that is really good example of that is we've hired people from the restaurant industry quite a bit, and that's like us going to have a dinner or lunch or something, and they're just providing great service. And you're like, well, we're in the service people industry. Like, maybe there's a better opportunity for you in the real estate world versus the restaurant, and you could easily have that conversation and lead to some opportunities. We go through a Starbucks drive-through quite a bit, and like they have the best people in that drive-through. And every time I go through, I think, man, that person would be great, like on a phone call or something in our business, or handling phones or client care or something like that. because you can naturally, they're just doing a great job, and you feel excited when you talk to them and go through that. So you got to look for those people in life, and it's not just going to come through an ad on internet. Like that's not where most of our people in our world have not shown up through an ad. They've shown up through just going about your day-to-day life but thinking about that and being proactive with finding people.
So why are you so interested in owning so many businesses? You know, like you've done really well with them, but you could have just picked one, like just the real estate business or just the investments, and then left everything else behind. What makes you feel like you want to have all these different businesses?
At times I should have done that because definitely taking on too much at a given time can be detrimental to everything. So there's something to be said for that. But I still, I think it's never really thought of it this way at the beginning. I started out in the real estate world, and it was really, I'm focused on investing. I want to buy my first property, figure that out, did it, move on. I want to buy more. And then money partners come in, and you're like, okay, now we got to buy more with this person to help this person here, building a team. And you start to see leaders start to develop, and you're like, wow, I'd love to see that person do something, the next thing. I think that's probably my visionary type that is not, I don't think, at least some of that is natural. And I just get excited about, and I imagine what that person could be one day, and then taking them through the process a little bit. And over the years, seeing that person evolve into something, I think a bigger, better version of themselves is really exciting and fulfilling. And so well beyond the financial part of it, it's just exciting to watch people grow as leaders and develop their own teams within our companies and things like that. And I think that becomes a bit addicting. So that's probably why I keep going with it and looking for the next version of that. And it's really fun to watch people build life, within your world that's, when you knew them at the beginning, and then they've developed bigger, better financial world, family world, and all that sort of thing. It's really cool. So it becomes addicting. So I think I think I just get excited about that, and I want to see them grow. And it's definitely not me and my goals that are pushing that. It's more just I have to grow as well in order for them to grow, and it all works in sync with one another.
Okay, so over the next 6 months, what are you excited about?
Ooh, good. We've got on the realtor side, we've got a really interesting announcement coming in the next 3 weeks or so. So I'm excited about what that's going to be. I can't really share a lot about it, but we got a new realtor sort of expansion news to come. That's going to be cool, and that's the biggest thing. I wish I could share more on it, but in about 2 weeks you'll hear a lot more, and so that's pretty exciting. And if we can add that, like a link or something on that, we could do that later. But that's pretty exciting for me. I guess the parts I can share is that it's just going to be a fun realtor expansion sort of operation where we're developing more teams within our organization into some new areas and new opportunities. And what's coming with that is actually a really interesting investment arm too, that we're going to really go after these buildings really hard, bigger, more kind of, substantial investments, which is why we're looking at the general partnership model and things like that too. We have some news around this coming next couple weeks. It's going to be a bit chaotic for the 6 months or so. So I think I'm expecting all of these next 6 months to be a little chaotic with systematizing all this. But that's what I'm most excited about is seeing that come to life and watching our people thrive through the chaos that it's going to come with it. And hopefully that means we're going to grow with that and develop even more partnerships over the next 6 months. Our brokerage too, I'm excited to watch it grow, and when we've got some big goals there this year. So I think that's kind of going hand in hand. And I should mention that's probably one thing too that I've been able to accomplish is like all my businesses are very much like aligned. I'm not going out and starting a restaurant business or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not overly challenging, and a lot of the same relationships can kind of develop and complement all the different niches there, I guess, within our business that we're working on. So yeah, it's I'm hopeful that doing what we're about to launch here in the next couple of weeks is also going to help all these companies grow and create great opportunities for others. So cool. That's what I'm excited about.
Okay. And I'm just curious, this has nothing to do with real estate, but how have you been staying in shape over the last 2 years, with all the gym closures and everything? What have you been doing?
Great question. Actually, I love the health topic because it's one of my I think it's super important. It'd be pretty much as important as any wealth building thing. Health is, what's the point in building any wealth if you don't have any health? So I would say ups and downs along the way. I totally got rid of the gym in my life. I don't go to the gym anymore. I was up and down going there and off and on home workouts versus gym anyways. I totally just gave up on the gym. I didn't want to deal with the going there off and on, whatever. So, but the biggest thing I took up is running. I actually run a lot lately. I hated running before the pandemic. I was a decent runner, younger, and then I just hated it. And I found somehow I got over that hump. It was really hard at the beginning, actually. Shin splints, ankles sore, and everything. Like, go to sleep at night and really be in pain, but then kind of kept going and just got through that. So I'm doing a lot more running. I'm going to run a marathon this year. I'm going to run a 30K in March.
Nice.
And a marathon towards the end of the year. So yeah, I've been a year and a half or so running quite often. Like even through the winter here, we're running, and I was running a -20 the other day and getting through. I did like 11 kilometers. So it's a different form of working out for me, but it's been really good actually for my health, and I feel amazing after I go for a nice run every morning. I usually do it pretty early, and that's been the biggest habit that I've picked up that I'm getting to be more proud of, because I'm actually getting to go some significant distances. But I'm a little nervous too, because I've never done a marathon before, so we'll see what that looks like this year. My goal for the marathon is to complete it and to not walk during it. I don't know what timeline that's going to be. I ran 2 half marathons last year actually, and kind of just under the 2 hour mark. So I suppose I'd be looking at under 4 hours in the marathon would probably feel like a win.
How'd you feel after the half marathons?
The first time pretty dead, and the second time not bad. I actually, I was gearing up for it, so I did not a really extreme regimen training, but I started with getting, go to that 12 kilometer mark, then 15, then 18, then 20, 21, and so on, which is what I'm going to do with the marathon one. And yeah, it's a bit of a grind, but I like the mental hurdles in it. I think there's a lot of mental health, piece there that helps. I think it's like I feel great after the next day or two after running.
Are you doing everything on your own, or do you have people that you're running with? Because I know some people that have done marathons, but they would get together, like 6-7 people. They would all run together all the time.
I don't have that, like a running club or whatever. It's funny. I would always encourage that in business as well, and everything in life, is to find like a mentorship or a mentor group or a coach for accountability around it. It's something I should probably do this year, actually, is get a little more involved in that. I kind of like it on my own most days. Like I like going out for a run on my own. It's peaceful. I usually put a book on, and I read a lot actually through this pandemic, because I run for an hour a few times a week, and that really, I can get through just on that without even adding anything else there. I can get through a book every couple of weeks, but I usually go through even more because I'll listen to it while I drive and whatever. So you know what? I think physical health though is really, really tied in with your mental health. So most people who have, I shouldn't say most, but a lot of people that develop some mental health issues, especially through a pandemic, they're probably not exercising very regularly. They're probably not eating healthy. They're probably, the physical components there are probably not, they probably don't have very good habits. So I found that running, especially outside, I do it outside versus inside as much as I can. So I just think you get so much energy out of that, and mentally, physically, everything, you just feel good. So it's been really helpful. Actually, it's probably benefited my business. I probably show up, when I do come to our offices, I probably have more energy. I probably feel more excited about everything in the day. So it's actually been, I'm actually thankful for the pandemic in a way for helping me with that.
Yeah,
so
for sure. A lot of these like business podcasts, entrepreneurship podcasts, you don't often hear too much about health, but it's such a key component. Anyone who's successful takes care of their health. You can write down a list of the most successful people. I'm sure that there is a component of like working out every day and doing these things to make sure you're still physically healthy and able to get through the day on a high note.
There's, you could probably find examples of ones that don't, but they don't.
Maybe Warren Buffett.
Actually, yeah, that's probably a pretty good one. His model is very simple to where he got wealthy though. He just held on forever. He didn't like do anything all that risky. He's been in it for a long time, and it's compounded and compounded and compounded. Yeah, but you're right. It's health. Health is so big. I think you attract better people when you're healthy. I think you just because of your energy and your enthusiasm and your vibrance. Like it's hard, especially now. I think it's a lot more harder to attract like like-minded, excited people that want to build something fun. Like, it's hard to do that when you're, when there's a fat, sick, or nearly dead. There's a video or a movie with that title. That's why it came to mind. But it's not; those aren't very attractive. We talk about traction versus recruiting. If you want to track people, I think being a healthy person is going to help with that attraction. And so, there's definitely a correlation there. And I mean, if nothing else, forget all the wealth and everything and business and all that. If you had nothing else in life, like, at least you got your health. Like, health is, if you don't have your health, there's not much point in having anything. Yeah. Because you're not going to be around for long to enjoy it.
Yeah. I was just thinking about Warren Buffett because I've read his biography, I think twice actually. But I remember in one point in the bio, he was talking about like being in France or something, and they had like some of the top chefs in the world that were cooking, and he didn't want anything they made. He just said, "Get me a burger and fries." That's all he wants to eat. Just simple. So yeah, he's definitely an exception to that rule. But
I see Bill Gates too. I think they're really close buddies. I see them, on one of the Bill Gates movies. They're drinking Cokes like all the time in the movie, and Bill goes to his hideaway and he has like a full fridge of Coke, and you're like, interesting that's not very healthy habits, but
Warren Buffett owns a pretty big stake in Coke, so maybe that has something to do with it too.
Possibly.
Yeah. But anyway, so thank you so much, Sandy, for doing this. Do you want to share, I know you got a million things going on, but maybe just like one thing that you're excited about, a service that you're going to provide, and how people can reach out to you?
So to tease our new endeavor coming up, people can go, if they want to email me, the best way to do it is sandy@freedomreps.com, freedomreps.com, which will be a little teaser for the new brand that we're kind of launching here in the next little bit. So you can go check that out probably too now, freedomreps.com. So some exciting things on there that you can find out. It's more realtor based, but we have a really big wealth building component to it that people can inquire about, and we can see how we can help them. And yeah, if anyone wants to do anything wealth building in real estate, I'm happy to help connect you with the right people or help you ourselves. And those are the people we want to serve and help. So, if anyone wants to reach out, I'm more than happy to have those conversations and just see where we align and how we can service them. So, yeah.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Sandy. Appreciate your time, and we'll be in touch soon.
Cool. Yeah, this was fun. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode. Your support is truly appreciated. And if you can share this with a friend or family member that might benefit from the information, remember, our goal is to motivate and inspire others to take action and to build wealth and to become well off. Enjoy the rest of your day.